Hi friends, Pastor Terry here. We are Okotoks Alliance Church. This is the 10-Minute Coach. I just wanted to reflect with you for a few minutes on the message Sunday, December 5, second Sunday of Advent, part of our Christmas Is series, and in particular this week looking at Christmas is family. And of course there's much that you can say in support of that statement, although it could be a very painful thought if you are estranged from your family in some way, or maybe you have wanted to be married and aren't married, or something like that. The hope in all of this is that God has intended to put you in family through Christ. But then there's a call upon all of us to be reaching out, to be watching for those who are perhaps at risk, perhaps feeling estranged or lonely, or just needing some companionship. And so many of us around here have had people in around the Christmas season attempting to broaden our embrace, and if that's you, thank you for that. If that needs to be you this year, bless you. I know it's so much more difficult as the pandemic continues on, and there's just concerns. We want to be careful, so be careful. But there are ways, and maybe this is the year to explore one of those ways. Now, let me invite you to come back into the passage of Scripture that we've been in, passages of Scripture that we've been in this past Sunday. Kind of my primary thought around family was with the Matthew chapter 1. I mean, the way Matthew opens that gospel is to diagram Jesus as being part of a very significant family tree. I mean, there's all kinds of theology that's attached to that, and I won't try to go into that, but at one legitimate point is Jesus was born into family. There were many ways that the King of the universe could have come. This is how he chose to come. And so we say, well, family has a place in God's design. There's intentionality about it. We went to Genesis 2:24, Genesis 1:27 and 28 to make some observations about his intentionality in that. Lots of ways that God could have created, lots of ways he could have procreated. Look around the world. Man, the ways that different animals, different plants, different species procreate, it's very, very diverse. Why did he choose marriage? Why did he choose the things that he chose that are part of that? It's part of his design, and it's good. He declared it to be good. In fact, after creating man and woman, he called it very good. And so we want to be careful to honor what God has called very good, and to respect, well, what is it about this? And that's where we kind of went into the second sub-point under point number 1, which was this idea that the design of family is instructional. And I took us to Ephesians chapter 5 in particular, verses 25, and then we jumped down to verses 31 to 32. And the reality is that marriage is about something more than itself. And it's there that Paul is saying, I'm talking about Christ and the church. And we say, hang on a minute, I thought you were talking about marriage. And he's like, nope, I was talking about Christ and the church. Yes, I was talking about marriage, but I was talking about Christ and the church. And we've got this high calling for marriage. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Serve your family, serve your bride, such that she will love being with you. This is part of the design, and people ought to be able to look at a Christian marriage and say, I'd love to be in a relationship like that. He looks like Jesus. She responds to him like the church. What a beautiful thing this is. We went on then to talk about the weaknesses, because the scriptures are honest about weaknesses. They have come as a result of the fall of humanity, where enmity was placed between husband and wife, between children and parents, and everything got so much more complicated. I likened it to this massive and spectacular piece of engineering wondery, machinery, but the oil is missing, or there's sand in the oil pan, or there's a wrench in the gears, but it's not working according to its design spec. And we feel that, and that's the difficulty. But I think people often point to something like marriage and say, well, that's the problem. No, that's just one of the places where the symptoms show up. The problem is much deeper than marriage. The promise is something much deeper than marriage as well, and that's where we then went. God has this design. I took us to Jesus' statement. His family had come to take him away in the Gospel of Mark chapter 3, and while they had failed him, he looks around at his disciples. I've wondered whether there's some humor in that. If you read the passage again, I've wondered whether there were some laughs as he looked around. He says, "You're my mother, you're my brothers," and they're laughing. And he's like, "No, anyone who does the will of the Father." And so we're talking about the new commandment that Jesus gave to us: love one another as I have loved you. There's that "I have loved you" bit again. Which is a summary of the greatest commandment and the second greatest commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself, which finds amplification. If you want to understand that better, go to the book of Deuteronomy and read it through, because each of those instructions get, as part of the Ten Commandments, Deuteronomy chapter, is it 6? No, 6:4, Deuteronomy chapter 5. I think I got that right. You'll have to double check me off the top of my head. Is the Ten Commandments, and then they get expanded through the balance of the book of Deuteronomy. It's quite an extraordinary thing. There's some detail there. There's some instructions. Here's how to live this out: loving the Lord your God. Here's how to live out loving your neighbor as yourself, preferring one another, caring for one another, and then we come back to this beautiful family picture, which is all of that brought together for any who are willing to see it in marriage and in family, as we care for one another in microcosm and then care for one another in the family of the church. Well, we refer to our church as a family very intentionally. This is our calling, it's our ambition. We don't necessarily do it as well as we should. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we don't. And so we want to be purposeful and intentional, inviting people. The Christmas season, here we are, the Christmas path, December 18, 19. Bring your family, bring your friends. If you don't have family, find some other people who would come. And it's an outdoor walk. It's as safe as we're going to get in the COVID environment. But retell the Christmas story and allow our actors to share that and share a visit around an outdoor fire pit and a cup of hot chocolate. I think it's going to be a lovely, lovely event. Just pray with us that God would grant us beautiful weather again this year. Christmas Eve, of course, 5 and 7 p.m. services, online as well as in person. These are opportunities for us to invite friends and family to experience the real family that is being pointed to by all of this. I quoted on the sermon note, back of the sermon notes, once again C.S. Lewis from The Weight of Glory, because I just find it such a profound statement. The last bit of it is this: they are not the thing itself. They are only the scent of a flower that we have not found, the echo of a tune we have not heard, news from a country we have never yet visited. This is what stirs us about family at Christmas. Christmas is family, yes, in a far greater sense than is commonly understood. We have been invited into the family of God, and none of us are alone. He is with us constantly. I hope and pray that's your experience this Christmas season, this week, as we continue to journey toward the celebration of Christmas, the coming of Jesus among us because of his love for us. God so loved the world, he gave his one and only begotten Son, that whoever should believe in him would not perish, but have everlasting life. We're going to come back to that passage again next week as we continue through this season of preparation, anticipating Christmas. Thanks for spending this time with me. Bless you, and bye for now.